What's up? Today we're going to be going over some things to look for when purchasing a used watercraft, and this is the poor people edition, so it won't be on this one. Okay, so here's what a good running ski should sound like from a cold start. And you should, turning the choke on from after it's been sitting a while is perfectly normal, and it might take a while. A little bit of throttle. Okay. You shouldn't need any more choke once it starts running. Nice and smooth. Yeah, just like that. After you've got it running one time, you've got the fuel running through the carbs, you shouldn't need choke anymore. So, choke off, it should just fire right up. Now, if it doesn't do that, it could have carb issues. Let's talk about carburetors. Carburetor. Just kidding, that's a motor. It's the bottom end of a two-stroke motor, which you're most likely looking at because all the older jet skis are two-strokes and carbureted. Most of them, some fuel injected. But the reason I got to show you all this is because the biggest thing and kicker and thing that's either like a cheap repair or a really expensive repair is carb just needs to be adjusted. Well, maybe that's the case, and it's kind of hard to tell. But here's why that statement can actually be a cover-up for complete engine failure on a two-stroke motor. A four-stroke, two-stroke, four-stroke, they all blow stuff up, air and fuel, up here, but they have valves. If the bottom end on a four-stroke it has any leakage in it, you're just going to see oil running out because there's oil down there. On a two-stroke, the air and fuel goes through the carb, and I'm not going to get into how the carb works, but you've got this air and fuel coming down here, and it goes up under the crankshaft, through ports in the cylinder, and then up top. And so your crank is lubricated by the oil and fuel mix, as well as the cylinders. The cylinder walls are lubricated too by that same mix. With a two-stroke, if you've got a leaky seal down here in the bottom end, you won't tell because there's no oil in it. But what could be happening if you do have a leaky seal is you've got air coming in somewhere else around here. And that will have the exact same symptoms as a carb issue because it's like you're getting too much air in the motor. But the carbs could be perfectly fine, and in reality you're getting air mixed in down there. And so there really isn't a way to tell. The biggest thing I would say if you're purchasing a older two-stroke is, and if it's got some type of carb issue, just assume it's crank seals unless you can somehow be convinced that the bottom end has been overhauled. And that's bottom end, not top end. A lot of people do top end jobs, but in fact those top ends are just going bad because there's a crank seal leak, and it's a nightmare of problems. So older two-stroke, never been rebuilt, having fuel system type issues, just assume it needs a whole bottom end job, and that's pushing $2,000 versus $300 carb job. One more thing to look at on these older two-strokes is your lubrication system. A lot of them have been converted to premix. That's cool. Not much to check there. Just make sure you're mixing your oil and gas. But a lot of them still have these older oil injection systems on it. Also cool, you just want to make sure the tubes, hoses are all intact and have oil in them. A lot of them are transparent and you can actually see if there's oil in them. If you see one that's cracked, leaking oil, or there's no oil in one, you can pretty much bet that your top end's gone because it ran out of oil. And that's actually what happened to this. There's a hole. Put a picture there. Long story short, 4-strokes are like cancer. Only rich people can afford them. Let's go look at some jet pumps. I want to just real quick show you what the jet pump should sound like, because it kind of makes a rattly noise, but it's really nothing to worry about. But before I do that, I do just want to point out that your brand new Sea-Doo Sparks ain't got nothing on these old SPXs, XPs, these tiny little holes. Freaking launch out of the water. Better than a Spark any day of the week. Alright, let's start this up. So when it's out of water, the impeller is not loaded, which, by the way, because it's not loaded, you know, sometimes fuel system issues you won't even notice out of water. You won't notice until it's in water, and the engine actually has load on it. So, but out of water, this thing is just flying around in here, and there's no water, and you know your leading edge of your impeller is just slapping the ring, and yeah. That you've got everything's unloaded. That's where that rattle's coming from. It's no big deal at all. But I would say to look up in there, and you know, you want to check two things in the jet pump. One is look for signs of, you know, impeller damage like that. That's going to cause problems. Just a little roughness on the leading edge, you know, it technically will cause problems, but that's really not a big deal. You're not gonna really be able to see the wearing that well, so you gotta look up in the pump from the back of the ski, and as you can see in this jet pump, you see a big gap on the outside of the impeller, and that's because this wear ring is really. You shouldn't see any gap. Maybe a little gap of light is okay, but the specification on that gap, you know, on a lot of pumps is like 1 millimeter or less. Some might be 2, but yeah, they're really small. If you have a gap there, it's probably your wear ring. This is a serviceable part that'll have to be pulled out and replaced. So yeah, that's what you're looking for. If there's a big gap there, just know you're looking at a wear ring job, which we charge anywhere from like $350 to like $1,200 if we do some upgrades while we're in there. So, yep.
Call from 140.
Talk to me. I'll be right there. They're having a sale down at Amphibious Power Sports. Alright, here we are at the sales lot. Let's see if we can go make a deal on the jet ski. Hey.
Want to buy a jet ski?
Can I inspect it first?
Go ahead. I don't have nothing to hide.
It's a pretty nice one. Any issues with it?
It runs great. You just need to dial in the carb a little bit. That's it.
Pass. This is a pretty good looking ski. Let's take a look at it. Come put your camera down here. Look at that. We got some new oil lines in there. That's a good thing. Don't have to worry about that. Pretty clean engine bay. How's she run? Okay. Now on the wear ring, See if you can get that up in there. This one is good to go. Hell, no matter what, at least with this, you know that your wear ring is going to last a little bit. That's all, folks. Try to make it short and sweet and to the point and very practical. Please let me know how I can get better and if there's anything else you'd like me to cover.